after the October 7th attack. There were rockets falling in Israel. There were no big events, music concerts, even weddings. People were very quiet, shocked and sad. And then you arrive to this venue in Jerusalem, 5,000 people dancing and singing like the Messiah is coming.
מוות למחבלים, כולם!
יעלו ויבואו משפחות גרעיני ההתיישבות.
קהילת העיר עזה, גרעין המיועד להתיישב בעיר עזה.
They really see it as an opportunity. They're happy. They saw October 7 as an opportunity.
This is the Victory of Israel conference, one of a number of massive carnival-esque mega events held in the wake of October 7th. Attendees could take part in workshops on how to establish a settler outpost, rub shoulders with cabinet ministers.
רק לקיחת שטח תכאיב להם באמת.
But who are Israel's settlers? And why, when the rest of the country was in mourning, were they choosing that moment to rejoice?
So settlers are Jewish Israeli citizens that believe that the entire biblical territory of Israel was promised to the Jewish people by God. They live beyond the Green Line, which is the internationally accepted borders of Israel, despite the fact that it's illegal by both international and Israeli law. And the way they do so usually is a few settlers will go into a Palestinian territory, put an outpost there, and expand that outpost. They start to supply them with infrastructure, water, security, electricity, and by this kind of tactics, they create a new reality on the ground.
The settlers are one of the most well-endowed sectors in Israeli society. They enjoy some of the most lavish subsidies and state budgets. They are represented by Ben Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, Minister of Finance, who have been propelled to power through the inclusion in Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet. So, although they are not a mass movement within Israel, they are only 5 or 6% of the Israeli population. Their power is unprecedented, and their ability to wreak havoc in the Palestinian territory is unprecedented.
There are hundreds of thousands of settlers in the West Bank. Many of them live there because it's cheap, because it's affordable. There's no law there for them. They can kill, they can take over land. The public doesn't want to see it, and the media doesn't show it. So through the years, this has been normalized that the West Bank is kind of de facto part of Israel. After October 7, from the beginning, the settlers were talking about going back to Gaza.
Back because they had been there before. The last settler left the Gaza Strip in 2005 when the Israeli government dismantled 21 Jewish settlements dotted across the territory. That plan had been drawn up more than a decade earlier, in 1993, when Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin agreed to the US-brokered Oslo Peace Accords.
Enough of blood and tears. Enough!
Rabin was assassinated 2 years later, not by a Palestinian, by an Israeli settler who saw the Prime Minister's efforts at peacemaking as a form of betrayal.
This was a point in which the settler movement was experiencing a real political crunch. Most Israelis were supporting Oslo, and the settlers were considered the extremists and those who resorted to unheard of violence. The settlers movement created a campaign to win the hearts and minds of Israeli publics by doing their own hasbara, that they are not crazos, that it's actually beautiful to live in settlements and is actually the ideal life that every Israeli is dreaming about.
גינות גדולות, מרווחות, חניות צמודות לכל בית, והכי חשוב, אופציה לבנייה בעתיד.
One of the things that helped these settlers expand their media networks is the establishment of Israel Today, which is the most read daily newspaper in Israel, and then Channel 14, the first TV channel that is very, very much biased towards the right.
כשיבוא הזמן פקודה, אז לא תתחילו להתייפייף לי על כל מיני גורמים פלסטינים בלתי מעורבים. תנו לנו לכבוש כבר.
Now there's not a major TV channel or a newspaper that don't include at least one settler or two.
For example, Channel 12, the leading channel in Israel, you have Amit Segal, a son of a settler that's also very close to Netanyahu.
אני חושב שהבוחרים של נתניהו מצפים ממנו במידה רבה מאוד לקיום הבטחתו לניצחון מוחלט.
You have, of course, Channel 14, and you have many settler figures there, like Shimon Riklin and ינון מגל.
אין ביטחון בלי התיישבות, זה כתוב בפרשת השבוע. לא אכפת לי שירדו אליי, אוספים פה חומרים. אני לא נרדם טוב בלי שאני רואה בתים קורסים בעזה. מה אני אעשה? עוד בתים, עוד מגדלים, שלא יהיה להם לאן לחזור.
After October 7, many people were invited to the mainstream media to speak about the plans to resettle in Gaza.
עזה שייכת, כולה שייכת לארץ ישראל.
Among those calling for the resettlement of Gaza on Israeli airwaves, one voice stands out.
שלום, שלום.
Daniela Weiss is a veteran of Israel's settler movement.
מגיל 32 אני כבר עוסקת בהתיישבות כידוע.
At 79, Weiss has spent decades spearheading the establishment of outposts on Palestinian land. Today, she is the leader of Nachalah, a radical settler organization, and since October 7th, a mainstay on Israeli TV.
עכשיו אנחנו עובדים על תוכנית הרבה יותר מפורטת.
כן.
כאשר ברור היכן יהיו אזורי מגורים, חקלאות, היכן תהיה הריביירה היהודית. עכשיו מה השלב הבא? להילחם, לכבוש וליישב.
She's not hiding her extreme right-wing opinions.
התכנסו כאן נציגים של 700 משפחות של 6 גרעיני התיישבות שמיועדים להתיישב בתוך חבל עזה.
She will give interview to anyone. She will talk even to Western media, to left-wing outlets. She doesn't mind.
Arabs will not stay in the Gaza Strip. Who will stay? Jews.
She's very well connected to the ministers, to the army, and to the police, and you can see it with the events she organized very close to the Gaza border in a place that is a closed military area, and she managed to get permissions or force the army and the police to allow those events.
While the war is continuing, we will fill the areas that were liberated with Jewish communities.
These events were meant to pressure Netanyahu, and we've seen their effect. The Israeli military was already constructing bases in the Tzarim corridor, demolishing entire neighborhoods, not during fighting, but after it, to make sure Palestinians are not coming back. They were almost there. In their mind, they were 90% on the way, and then it didn't happen.
The ceasefire deal signed in January may have set back the ambitions of Weiss and the settler movement, but only temporarily. Hundreds of Palestinians were killed within hours of Israel resuming its full-scale bombardment of Gaza. And the renewed ground assault has focused on the Netzarim corridor, a key location in the heart of the Gaza Strip, where Israeli settlements once stood.
It's been a fragile agreement to begin with. It is clear that this war, atrocious war of revenge, has not achieved at all any of its declared goals. And yet the message of the settlers has also been enforced and strengthened by the obsessive engagement of the Israeli media with the trauma of October 7. And the message is basically there's no chance that the Palestinians are ever going to accept any of us. We are all settlers. And this is an incredible boost to the settlements movement.
Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and leave us a comment to let us know what you thought about anything we covered this week. And don't forget to follow us on social media. The links are in the description, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter for updates from the show.